you doing, fellas? What's going on?
Doing
48
great.
hours
Doing
before
great.
the draft.
I mean, you could just wind us up and let us go. Right, Barthy?
I'm going to do that. Barth has been on like 17 shows in the last 8 hours. He did the night show last night. He was on the
I'm a
morning
little
show.
worried he's taked out.
I've only got like 5 or 6 more days before they put me back in the supply room for the summer, so I got to get it in while I can.
I don't think it's possible for Barth to be taked out on the draft. Morgan, I had him on for an hour last week on the Joe Show. Kid hit me with a URI long snapper take. I swear to God,
See,
I'm
I
not
have
joking.
no time for that, so
We have 4 hours.
Just give me the good stuff.
We have 4 hours. Oh, what do you really want us to go ahead and do? Oh, I don't know. Are the Patriots going to take Will Campbell again on Thursday? Aren't you a little Will Campbelled out over the last 3 months?
I understand that side of it, but when you're getting into URI long snappers, there are GMs in this league that don't have URI long
Now
snapper
you're just
takes.
showing off.
There's a happy medium there for sure, I think.
Even Barth knows it's a problem.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to do? Do I need to patronize both of you and humor you and say, oh, I mean, are the Patriots not going to take Will Campbell on Thursday? Like, do we really need to do this charade for the next 48 hours? Like, guys, they're taking Will Campbell, right? Am I wrong about this? Football people, tell the baseball guy, am I wrong about this? They're taking Will Campbell on Thursday, right?
I think there's a high likelihood that they take him. I'm not ruling out other possibilities, though. My ego is not so massive that I would look at the NFL draft, which is one of the most unpredictable exercises we have every year in sports, and say, I know exactly what's going to happen. Because you don't. Because Shedeur Sanders could still go in the top 3, McCarthy. There are people in the NFL who believe that is still a possibility, which would mean you would have one of those blue chip prospects fall to you at 4. Or there's another tackle in this draft who is very highly regarded, who doesn't play left tackle. He's played right tackle, but he's an incredible athlete. There's nothing he can't do athletically, is what I've been told, including flip from right to left. Would he, Armand Membu from Missouri, be worthy of that 4th overall pick? Or is it Jalen Walker that they've fallen in love with? There are multiple options on the board here. I think if I had to bet on it, I would bet Will Campbell, and I don't know how you feel about this, Alex, but I'm not ruling out other possibilities. It's not a 100% he's coming to New England as far as I'm willing to go, at least. I'm not going 100% on Will Campbell.
Yeah, I think there's a strong possibility, especially if they pick at 4. Some of the Shedeur Sanders stuff is interesting, but I wonder with some of those teams if that's more about trading up from 33 and 34 and trying to jump the Steelers to get him as opposed to taking him at 2 or 3. For me, is the trade down going to materialize for the Patriots? And for a long time, I've thought it's just not there. It's not going to happen. There's suddenly all this buzz about Ashton Genty. Is somebody going to come up to 4 to get him? I feel like if the Patriots are picking at 4, again, I'm not betting on it. It's not 100%. I'm pretty confident it's Campbell. What I'm not as confident in, I think, as a lot of people, is if they trade back that they can still get Will Campbell. You know, you trade back to 6 with the Raiders, yeah, probably. You're going to go back to 10 with the Bears? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be there, and that opens up a whole other list of possibilities. So that's kind of where I begin the week. If I'm second-guessing something, and this is just how it goes as you go through, you get new information, you change your opinions. If I'm second-guessing something I've believed pretty strongly throughout this process at this point, it's that maybe that trade down will end up materializing. Now, I hope they don't sell the pick for less than it's worth. I hope they don't trade down just for the sake of trading down. That doesn't help anybody. Make it worth your while. But if somebody makes it worth their while, especially there's a future pick in there, even if it's a future 2nd or 3rd round pick, you're going to move down this year, but you get some ammunition to move up next year, I'm in on that. That would be great. I haven't thought that that's a possibility, but maybe Ashton Genty, one of the few blue chip players in this draft, somebody's willing to get aggressive.
So I would be willing to take 80 cents on the dollar on the draft, the Jimmy Johnson draft value chart, if it means you can move down, because I don't know if there's much difference between Will Campbell and, Kelvin Banks. And I know there is a difference, but you know what I mean. In this draft, I don't know if being at 4 is of great benefit to the Patriots. If you're down to 10, okay, I'll take the chances that Will Campbell isn't there. I don't know if the Patriots are taking those chances, because I believe the reporting that they love Will Campbell and they're taking Campbell at 4, but I would be willing to take a little bit less if that means you can move down, because I'm just not convinced you'll be able to move down.
You're okay with them taking a lesser player for a 3rd round pick?
Yeah, I am, because I think they need to improve this roster top to bottom. and I will take an extra third-round pick. Yes, I will.
That to me is assuming that there really is no difference between the player you'd get at 4 and the player you'd get at 10. And if that's the case, then sure. But I just don't think that will be the case for them. I think they would have Will Campbell as the most comfortable choice just in terms of a sure bet. Somebody you've seen play a lot of left tackle, somebody who from a culture and leadership standpoint is going to be a foundational piece for you. I know that there are people that have been in that building on the personnel side for years now that look at the offensive side of the ball and say, we've been lacking leadership since Brady left. And this guy would be somebody that you can see grow alongside your quarterback and really be a cornerstone leader for you for 10 years. Now, that might be overrating the player in some ways, right? Leadership is great. It doesn't do much for you on the football field. It does a little bit on the practice field maybe, and in the weight room and in the locker room. But I go back to what Mike Vrabel was telling us during his pre-draft press conference. Mike Giardi's in the middle of asking him a question about getting the right kind of person and the right kind of human being. Didn't even get the full question out. And Mike Vrabel stopped him when Giardi said, I know you want to get a good player. Vrabel stopped him and said, yes, and that's the most important thing. Because even Vrabel understands where the narrative is in terms of their team-building processes and their team-building approach, which is they only want good guys. They only want nice guys. They only want Mike Vrabel types of guys. And he's pushing back on that and saying, no, it's about the talent of the player first. Yes, we care about the person, and we want the right kinds of people here, but it's about the talent first. So if you're looking at talent first, is Will Campbell really the guy at 4? Should he be?
You tell me, Barth. Is he?
Well, I think you combine talent with, like, Vrabel in that same press conference was very big on pushing premium position, right? We need a guy at a premium position. So is Will Campbell a better left tackle than Ashton Genty as a running back? No, he's not. But I don't think they're going to take a running back at 4 because I think they understand certain positions hold more weight than others. When you look at the guys at the premium positions, we've never seen Armand Membou play left tackle. So I think Will Campbell has played that position. That gives him an edge over Membou. I think he's a better left tackle, is shown to be a better left tackle than, say, Tet McMillan has a receiver, especially when you're projecting to the next level with some of those athletic shortcomings. So when you put it in the lens of that premium position thing, it's him and Jalen Walker. I think those are the two guys, if you're looking at Jalen Walker as an edge, I think those are the two guys that you can make the case for as in Membou at right, but I get nervous about the whole moving thing. Those are the guys you can make the case for as the best players at a position they would actually take at that spot.
Let me, and this is me playing devil's advocate, because I like you, McCarthy, find the discussion a little boring if we all just sit here and say Will Campbell's going to be the pick at 4. I think he will be. I've said it all along that I like Will Campbell, and that, to me, that is the pick that makes the most sense for them. The arm length is right at 33. To me, that shouldn't be a disqualifying factor for Will Campbell. So there's a lot of reasons they should take him. But shouldn't the discussions, Bart, that they're having right now behind the scenes be something along the lines of, what do we feel better about projecting at left tackle? Is it flipping a guy from right to left, which we've seen before, and we've seen guys do it at a very, very high level, especially really good athletes that have flipped from right to left. I'm talking Tyron Smith, Tristan Wirfs. Those guys are rare athletes. You know who else is a rare athlete? Armand Membou. And when you look at height, weight, speed, like, he is one of just 4 guys that came in with certain measurements when it came to the 40 and his height and his weight, along with Will Campbell, by the way, who's an excellent athlete himself. But it's just 4 guys, and one of them is Tristan Wirfs, who made that flip from right tackle to left tackle, is one of the best tackles in the league right now. What is more likely to happen? Watch a guy flip from right to left, or watch a guy who is a historic outlier when it comes to arm length and wingspan have success at left? What's more likely to happen? What do you think the answer is to that?
I think they're equal outliers. Like you mentioned, Tristan Wirfs and Tyron Smith. Those are really the only 2 in the last 15, 20 years.
Didn't Wirfs play right tackle when he came into the league first? Or did he flip over to left immediately?
No, he did. No, it wasn't immediate.
Right. So he established himself at right tackle in the league, and then
Tyron Smith did the same thing.
So I think that's a little different too, right? Like, you're coming into the league, welcome to the NFL, kid. Here's a new position, compared to you're already in the NFL. You have proven you can play right tackle. We think you're really good there. How about you try and play left tackle? I think there's a difference there, Phil.
There is, and you look at some of the guys who've tried it in recent years. The Titans used a first-round pick on J.C. Latham last year to try to flip him. A year later, they gave Dan Moore like the worst contract in free agency, so they can move Latham back. I think they're both outliers, but that's what this draft is, and that's what people have to get. Well, I don't want to take that risk. It makes me nervous. Unless Carter or Hunter fall, whoever they're taking, you are going to have some sort of high-level question. We don't know exactly what Ted McMillan's 40 time was. There are a bunch of reports out there. Whatever it is, that's probably an outlier, right? That's probably going to be an outlier at that position. Tyler Warren, it's not as extreme of an outlier, but a guy who didn't have his breakout year until his 5th year in college at the age of 24, guys like that generally have a pretty limited ceiling. Jalen Walker is kind of a tweener. There's some outlier stuff with his size if he's going to play primarily on the edge. Anybody you take at that spot, and then Genty, it's just the outlier is just a running back at the top of the draft making that kind of an impact. Anybody you take at that point, there's going to be a question. So Phil's point is right. That's essentially the question you're asking yourself. So no matter what we do, we are taking a risk. We are betting on somebody who has something that traditionally hasn't worked out at that spot. What bet do we want to make? I've seen Will Campbell play left tackle in the SEC against NFL pass rushers. That's the bet I'm willing to make. Do I feel amazing about it? No. I feel better about it than I would anybody else. And it's an eat your vegetables kind of draft. You're not necessarily going to feel over the top excited about who they take. It's just, who do you think has the best chance to mitigate the risk factors they're dealing with?
So this is what Bert has to say, writing for Sports Illustrated. Like a lot of teams, the Patriots certainly would entertain a trade down, but finding a partner won't be easy. If they get stuck at number 4, in that circumstance, my sense is they'll invest in protecting their young quarterback, and LSU's Will Campbell will be the pick. There are questions on his long-term viability at tackle, but he's the most pro-ready of the offensive linemen and has a high floor, and most believe that he could be an all-pro guard. One GM told me he thinks there are similarities in Campbell, the Los Angeles Chargers left tackle, Rashawn Slater, who was projected by many to be a guard, but proved athletic and technically sound enough to stay at his college position. Another comped his college tape to Zach Martin's. Martin played left tackle at Notre Dame and may be a Hall of Famer as an NFL guard. Either way, Coach Mike Vrabel has spent a ton of time one-on-one with Campbell, and Campbell knocked his 30 visit in March out of the park. If not Campbell, Georgia's hybrid linebacker edge Jalen Walker is another program guy. That's what Bert has to write about.
Yes, and I think the Rashawn Slater comparison is a good one. Even though he's a little shorter, he's 6'4". His arm length is the same. He's 33 inches coming out, and he's a very good athlete, as Will Campbell is. And Will Campbell's still young, too. I think that gets sort of lost in the sauce here when we discuss Will Campbell and what he's going to be as a prospect. He's 21 years old.
He's a growing boy. His arms could grow. He's
a 3-year starter since his true freshman season. So is he going to get better? I think people look at him as a maxed out kind of player, and that this
close.
Is what he's going to be. He's 21 years old. He's going to get better. He's going to get stronger. His arms, probably McCarthy, are not going to get longer unless he really grows out those fingernails and they,
stretch them out, baby.
Yeah, they're just disgustingly long, so he can get to 34 inches. But that to me is the good comp, and that to me is the kind of player that I think you could end up getting, which is a very good tackle, not an all-pro, but a very good player at one of the most important positions on the field. And that's the decision I would make. I just find the Membu discussion interesting to keep open, because among all the reporting we've gotten, you have two guys in both Peter Schrager from ESPN and Adam Schefter from ESPN, both saying recently that Membu is going to go higher than you think. And this is a guy who has been widely mocked at 7 overall to the Jets. How much higher is he going? Is he going to the Raiders? I guess the Raiders could draft a tackle. They have a tackle who's rumbling about his contract. They're at 6. Is he going to 5 in Jacksonville? They just re-signed their left tackle, and they have a pretty damn good right tackle already. I would say no. So if Membu's mocked everywhere at 7 and he's going to go higher than we think, does that not maybe mean the Patriots at 4? I just think we should leave the possibility open because of the upside that this guy has, and because I know there are fans of his in the building.
And we should, I guess, leave the possibility of a trade open, as much as I don't think it's going to happen. But there's a lot of reporting going around today and in the last few days about trade activity towards the top of the draft, including a report from Peter Schrager this morning that we will get into. about picks above the Patriots and how that would affect the Patriots. That's Peter Schrager, who is tapped in. I think we'd all agree. Tapped in. On Get Up this morning saying, hold on. We might have a trade possibility to number 2 or number 3 in the draft. Do you buy it, guys?
You're praying for this to happen if you're a Patriots fan.
Yes, you are.
Am I buying it? Yeah, it's Schrager. Yeah, why would I not buy it? I mean, if it's out there, if there's buzz about it, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. But I buy that there's interest. I mean, he is one of the best players in the draft. He's a running back, but he is one of the best players in the draft. And if it's the Browns, that one makes it interesting, Barth, because they are so analytically driven that I could see them being the team that says, even if we all see 2 true blue-chip players that are non-quarterbacks at the top of the draft, they would look at it and say, oh, but think about all that value. Think about all those draft pick points that we could accumulate. And being the analytically driven team that they are, maybe a trade down is something they'd be interested in.
Yeah, I believe teams are calling. I believe the Browns and Giants are picking up the phone. You might as well, right? See if somebody's going to get stupid. Why not? It's that time of year. Do I think it materializes into anything? No, I'd be pretty surprised at that point. But, yeah, you call, you check in. That's what you do.
I don't buy it one bit. Who does it benefit to have? I always ask this question at this time of year. Who does it benefit to have this news out there? Who benefits from it? And to me, it benefits the Browns and the Giants if they're trying to drum up some interest, because I don't think there's been too much interest in teams trying to trade up in this draft. I would also say, would it benefit the Patriots to have news out there that teams maybe want to go up to 2 or 3 to try and drum up some interest in the 4th overall pick, which I think we would agree is not as valuable as it's been in years past. I have a hard time seeing this going down. This is a 2-player draft with a quarterback going number 1.
Yep.
But a 2-player draft. Why would the Browns or the Giants trade down? What, you're going to trade down to 6? I mean, unless you love Ashton Genty and you feel like you can get him there and you'll take the value, why not just take Travis Hunter? Why not just take Abdul Carter, pick it and stick it and move on?
You know who else it benefits is Shedeur Sanders. Because now maybe some of those teams hoping he'll fall to the late teens or early 20s, they hear this, people are trying to move up. We might have to go up higher than we want to get him. Push him up the board.
Yeah. It's silly season, and I don't buy any of this.
I just don't know how it helps the Browns or Giants. I mean, they're already where you want to be. They're already in pole position. Why does it help that they would be losing out on, quote unquote, losing out on one of the players that we all think is are the prizes in this year's draft?
Yeah, to Barth's point, if somebody gets stupid, maybe it benefits them, and you walk away with a first-round pick from next year in a draft that probably will be better than this one. I mean, maybe the Giants are getting cold feet about Abdul Carter. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Phil, you have suggested that maybe some teams out there aren't as crazy about Carter as maybe you thought. I don't know. I just don't buy that this is actually going to happen.
Yeah, on Carter, it is interesting. I've spoken to teams that are in the edge defender market and have met with and spent a lot of time with Abdul Carter, and he's an interesting personality. He is not considered to be one of these guys that you're going to bring in, and he's going to be your number 1 culture ad of the offseason. He's going to be, somebody who might be a little bit difficult in terms of coachability. He's probably got his own ways of thinking how he should be handling his job at the position. And he is elite at one of the most important things in the sport, which is disrupting opposing quarterbacks. So the burst, the flexibility to get around the edge, the violence and attitude with which he plays on passing downs is all next level and is worthy of a top 3 pick for sure. The concerns on him, aside from things like the injuries, right? He's dealt with shoulder and foot issues, which I think will be issues, although they're not such significant issues that they should drop him out of the top 3, in my opinion. The things that have come up in terms of his play style and his on-the-field approach are he's poor against the run right now. That's the word that was used for me, poor. So first and second down, you're going to take a guy in the top 3 that you might not want out there. And he's still new to the position, right? He's an inside linebacker who's converted to the edge. And so maybe he just needs a little bit more time, a little bit more seasoning to be able to figure out how to take on tackles and tight ends in the run game. But it's been described to me as a technique and a want-to issue with Abdul Carter. He has all the ability in the world to play the run. He just didn't consistently show that he wanted to play the run at Penn State this past year at that new position. So again, to me, he's still worthy of that pick, and he is still an elite talent at one of the most important things you can do on a football field. But it has been interesting to me to hear him described essentially now, again, by teams that need edge guys, as maybe a pass rush specialist, at least to start in his career. Because generally speaking, you're picking that high in the draft, you'd like to have a 3-down player and not somebody that you're only using in niche situations.
It's just funny the way this draft has gone, because the guy, go back to September, the guy that was projected to be the top pass rusher was James Pierce from Tennessee. And the big picture, the big question with him was he had developed so much as a pass rusher, but his run defense wasn't there. And the question was, well, can you take a guy that might just be a passing down player as high in the draft as the top edge guy's probably going to go? Now, Pierce kind of had a rough season and fell down, but we're right back to that. But it just shows you what kind of draft this is. Does Abdul Carter have the highest upside in this draft? Yes. He's not a guy that would go top 5 in most drafts. That's just kind of where we're at. And I think teams are kind of squaring it. And it goes back to what I said before. You have to draft for the class that's there. You can't just tell Roger Goodell, we don't like any of these players. Put us on the clock for number 2 next year, and we'll make the pick then. You got to take somebody. Does Abdul Carter come with some questions? Yes. Does he come with questions that are easier to answer than everybody else in the draft? Yes. So you just kind of have to come around to, you can't necessarily have the same standard, the same bar you'd have in this draft that you would take in any other year. And if you're at the top of the draft, yeah, that sucks because you don't want to be there a lot and you want to maximize the pick. This is just what this year is.
So I guess a way to sorry, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, if Carter falls to the Patriots, they should take him.
Yes,
yeah,
no doubt.
100%.
Like to me, again, you hear the things about the run defense. I've also heard as a pass rusher, he might be the best in the draft of the last 3 years. Like even at least there with Will Anderson, and maybe even slightly better, who went at the top of the draft to the Texans a couple years ago. So that's good enough to take at 4 overall if you're New England. If something like this Ashton Genty trade happens and he goes in the top 3, or if somehow Shedeur Sanders goes in the top 3 and he falls to you, run it in, turn it in as fast as you can, and make him a member of your team, New England.
Let's play the game real quick, though. Let's act like this is real, and the Giants and the Browns are willing to listen on 2 and 3. Do you go up there if you're the Patriots? You make a call. You jump, one spot in the draft to get Abdul Carter. How are you guys approaching that?
I would for Hunter, but I don't know if I would for Carter.
I'm with Phil, and it's like, what am I giving up? I'm not giving up any future picks. I'm not moving future picks. I'm not borrowing from a better class to move up in this one. If you're telling me it's one of those 3rd-round picks and that's it, yeah, of course. They need more than one good player. So burning multiple top 100 picks to get up in this draft, I don't know that it's the best use of their resources.
You wouldn't give up a future second?
For Hunter, maybe.
For Hunter, I think I would. I think he's that good. I think he's that special as an offensive player. And yes, you could use him defensively, sprinkle him in on that side of the ball, sure. I think I'd give up a 3rd this year. I would definitely give up a 3rd next year.
Yeah.
I might be willing to go as high as a second next year.
For them specifically, I worry about, because he still needs some development as a wide receiver. He's raw there, and their history at that position, developing those guys.
And he's already so good. If he does do some of that developing,
yeah,
I think you have a special offensive player.
I'm with you on that.
Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.